Hello everyone, Alex here again doing another image review session. This one is in early November 2020 and it's a little bit of a mixed bag because I've not done any serious processing for a while. I've been away in Norway shooting orcas and I haven't got around to processing any of those new pictures yet. And also I've been sort of busy launching workshops, 2 to Roger Rampat for 2024, and thanks to everyone who's filled those up already. And also I've been preparing for my big Missoul trip this year, which is coming up at the end of this month. But hopefully between now and Missoul, I'll be able to process quite a few images now because I've kind of caught up with everything and I'll have some more interesting ones. This one is a little bit of a mixed bag. There's some Canada pictures. I've just finished a feature for Alert Diver in the States and I had to process a few pictures that I needed for that. And then there's a few other bits and pieces mainly from earlier trips this year that I've got processed at various times. So starting off with Canada, the first 2 pictures here, which you can see on the screen, are actually from previous Canada trips, and those were processed very specifically because I wanted a diver shot for the article, and I wanted a colourful giant Pacific octopus shot for the article, and I wanted those to be previously unseen images. So I went to the archives and dug out a couple of unprocessed images from back in the day and processed them out so I could have them now. So this is the first one of those, if I can get it to come up. There we go. This is Todd Mintz with some sea pens in Canada. And I processed this one to have a diver shot, really, which I hadn't really shot. I didn't really shoot any divers this time. And then here's the GPO. The giant Pacific octopus on the thing. I do like the tentacles in this one. I processed this one at super resolution, so although it was shot with a D700 12 megapixel camera, you can see this is zoomed in a long way, and it's really nice and sharp and crispy, and a nice high resolution image. I don't know how big it is now. Yeah, so it's getting on for sort of 40 megapixels in size, so a nice huge image from that original 12 megapixel and nice and sharp with it. A topside of God's Pocket Resort, obviously a requirement for sort of any magazine articles. You want a little bit of topside stuff, not photographically very interesting but useful to have. And then some wide angle shots. This is just a colourful scenic shot. Not all these are for the article, these are also ones I've processed along the way. A nice frosted nudibranch, a Dorona, this cool lobster or squat lobster. I don't remember what these are called actually, but they're a very cool creature. I found it very hard to identify, but David Hall has a nice shot of one, so I used his shot as my ID guide. A scaly head sculpin on the yellow sponge. I shot lots of these, but they're always interesting. This fish is not a very good photo at all, but it's quite an unusual. It's called a slender coxcomb, and I have never seen one before. It's got this kind of flap between its eyes that I quite like, and I thought I ought to process one out of this species just to have a bit of coverage of it. It's not a good picture at all. I certainly won't be sending that into the photo library, but I thought I'd have it for my own collection. A little bit more sort of just backgroundy, topside sort of thing that can be quite a useful image to have. There's just ripples on the sea, with the land reflecting in the ripples, and that's why you've got that change of colour as you see the trees in the ripples, but very standard shot. A detail shot of a white spotted anemone. I like this shot. I think it's got a nice peak of the action moment as the anemone's sort of re-emerging or pulling itself in. I'm not quite sure what was going on, but it was nicely balled up and a good opportunity. A small small decorator crab that I can't identify from this picture. It's I think just a bit too young, but nice on that orange sulfur sponge. I think that yellow sulfur sponge. I think that's really nice. A humpback. This one's in front of Browning Wall in Browning Pass, so kind of nice geographically relevant picture that kind of tells a little bit about the place as well, and this is the sort of stuff that you see on your surface interval. I really like how, and it was fortuitous because we were just waiting to dive, that the whale came up on this side, but I really like the blow of the whale being backlit, and because it wasn't windy, the blow is held in the air. We saw lots of humpbacks up in Norway last week, but it was so windy every time they blew like this. The the droplets just immediately blew away. So it wasn't that windy, but it was just windy enough. So when you get a humpback in this situation, it's just a nice whale blow. This one, nice shape, nicely backlit, good background. So I like that shot. A EMWL1 image of a red Irish lord. I shot lots of these. They're all quite similar. I've just processed another couple out. But I think this is another good one to show really how impressively sharp that lens is. This is, zoomed in 200% on a high-res file, so really impressive. A fairly okay shot of an eagle taking off, a bald eagle taking off. I just like the bit of action of this one taking off and the wings unfolding and the talons letting go of the forest. A painted greenling here. This is a male one sitting on the rocks. Nice patterns, just a standard portrait, but I was keen to get some more shots of those guys processed out. These are the I always get the names wrong. Whether I think this is the brooding anemone, or it could be the proliferating. I'm pretty sure this is a brooding one because it's got all the young stuck all around it. Really, lots of young. So these are the adult anemones, and then they brood the babies, and the babies bud out from them, and then the babies live on the skirt of the parents. So they're quite a cool little species, and you get both the broodings and the proliferatings in this area in Canada. And we saw more of the other type than this, but I really like this type with all the babies on the skirts. A dark-eyed goby just sitting on the yellow sponge, and another EMWL shot of the mossy head warbonnet in the bottle. Right, I think that's it for Canada. Then the rest of the shots, I've tried to. You can see the settings on the side there. The rest of the shots are. Oh no, there's one more Canada shot. I think this one I had in the last slideshow, so I won't talk about that again. I think I tweaked the processing of it when I was doing it for the magazine, but it's there. Right, the rest of the shots are kind of a random mix. There's a couple of shots from Palau, which I actually had to process because I was doing a feature on Palau for scuba diving magazine in the States, and they needed a couple of alternative images, so I processed a couple of images out. I rather like this one, enjoying swimming through the jellies, which I'd never processed at the time. And then this photo here, actually I remember now, they needed a new vertical image, and I ended up processing out this green turtle and this diver in a cave picture as well, just to give them some other options which are previously unprocessed images. This picture here is a rich reef in Rajarampa. I love how fishy this picture is. I didn't process it at the time because it's a little bit of a kind of a messy composition that's kind of, but I do like the main layers in this picture with the Sinularia soft coral in the bottom left down here. Then you've got the Napoleon wrasse, and then behind it you've got these fusiliers, and then on behind that are just more and more layers of fish, which is very typical of those incredibly rich reefs in that part of the world. I don't think the photo is wonderful, but I don't think it's a bad photo. But I think it's quite a useful photo in terms of showing how those reefs are, with lots of big fish, lots of small fish, just really high in biomass. And then I think the rest of the pictures are some Red Sea pictures from this year, which I've been a bit slow on processing. This is a tiger cardinal fish. Everyone is immediately going, oh, you took this at the barge in Gubal, but we didn't go to the barge this year. So this picture is actually taken in the alternatives, where there's plenty of these as well. But there's also nice scenery there, so people often don't focus on them. Then a sunset split on an evening with a very poor sunset taken at Ras Am Sid. But the corals there are very nice, and they're definitely better now than they were a few years ago, and there's some really nice corals to shoot sunsets. So I think when I get a nice evening in this particular location, it's going to be really, really good. But it wasn't a particularly nice evening this evening for splits, but it was okay. This is the kitchen area on the wreck of the Cresula Cay. This is the main oven of the boat there, and it's just shot with a remote strobe just to light it up. So got a little strobe on a tripod hidden around the corner here, and that's just pumping the light into that room, and then the rest of the picture isn't lit with strobe, so it gives a nice atmosphere. A coral grouper, just sort of, I like this picture with it just sort of poking out through the sea fan. And I always like this species of fish. I like the shallow depth of field because it's shot quite high magnification. This picture, I like how the dots run out of focus on its body, which is quite interesting, but nothing special. Shot with relatively wide aperture, that one, 5.6. And then here is another grouper, this time a peacock grouper. And I've just processed this picture. It's not a particularly good photograph. There's actually two of them in this picture. But the foreground peacock grouper has got this fishing line in its mouth. And this was taken in the Ras Mohammed National Park, where you shouldn't be fishing for groupers. And you can see it's a pretty new piece of monofilament line. So it's just a useful picture to have to highlight some of these problems and how not everything is perfect. In fact, the snappers last year were quite disturbed by the amount of fishing that was going on, which was sad to see after the Egyptian government were doing a really good job to reduce the fishing over the last few years. But it was sad to see there being quite a high level of fishing back again. Just a close-up shot with the Boha snappers. Just trying to see what lens this was shot with. I don't remember actually offhand. So shot with a 105 using telephoto technique, which is you can read about in my book if you're interested in that sort of thing. And yeah, just allowing me to shoot these sort of slightly sort of stacked images like this. And obviously the fish were swimming horizontally, and I purposely rotated the camera to create a slightly more interesting composition. Another portrait shot on the same dive actually, and this is fairly close by. You quite often get these yellow bar angels hanging out in the blue. They're nice big handsome angelfish. I don't think they look at their best photographed against the blue because they are predominantly quite a blue fish, but it was just a nice portrait and a species that I really like and always reminds me of the Red Sea, so just nice to take us this sort of simple vertical shot of him. And that, I believe, is that. So hopefully you've enjoyed that relatively brief run through some of the shots I've processed recently. Hopefully I'll have some slightly more interesting images to come back to in the coming days as I sort of delve into those new images from Norway, and also some more images as I start to get on top of what I've shot through the summer. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye bye.